एक ओंकार सतनाम करता पुरख निरभउ निर्वैर अकाल मूरत अजूनी सैभं गुरप्रसाद जप अर्थ सच गात सच है भी सच नानक होसी भी सच
ओंकार सतनाम करता पुरख निरभउ निर्वैर अकाल मूरत सैभं गुरप्रसाद जप आद सच जुगाद सच है भी सच नानक होसी भी सच नानक होसी भी सच वाहिगुरु जी का खालसा वाहिगुरु जी की फतेह
Okay, thank you.
Thank you firstly so much for joining me, for taking the time out of your evening and spending it with me. I know times are really challenging for all of us, and my whole point for today is to pass on the things that help me walk forward in faith, help me know fully that God and I are connected, and why I'm such a firm believer in the stuff that I talk about. So before we begin, I just want to say that if we look at our lives and we see that we are actually the creators of our life, and from this point forward, we see that if we have gotten to this point, then we can also get beyond this point. So with Benji, I might have to ask you to make me a co-host so that I can share my screen.
Do that now.
Thank you. And then we'll begin. Thank you so much. Okay. Let me know if you can see my screen, okay?
Yep.
Okay, so something that my mentors have said to me and taught me is that when we have challenges, that we have the ability to view our challenges as an opportunity to grow and as an opportunity to expand our levels of awareness and consciousness. And so all of this that's happening has been like, I know that if I had been, if the world was as it is right now, back then in 2015, I don't think that I would have survived. I think I would have I don't think I would have even had the conversation. So I say this all to say that when my mentors say to me that every opportunity is an opportunity to grow, every challenge is an opportunity to grow, I really now do understand that. And it made the line Dukhdaru Sukh Rog Pya so, I started to understand it on a different level, because in our comfort of not being challenged and not needing necessarily to change, we kind of just go with the flow. Then something happens, it uproots us, and all of a sudden we're like, so this space that we're in right now, I'm going to ask you from the get-go to look at it as an opportunity to grow, no matter what it is. If I am sharing this information with you, it's because this is a part of the work that I do. This is a part of my service. So I want to help share with people something to help them raise their awareness. So wherever you are right now, if you are being challenged, I feel you, I hear you, but I'm asking you to have some faith in yourself and the being that put you here. Because, and I'm prefacing all of this to say that my ultimate source is the resource of all things. My ultimate source, the thing that gives me power, is understanding that God and I are connected. And that means if God and I are connected, God and you are connected. And that means you and I are connected. So, I just want to share all of this with you. She says, oh, there we go. So I've said thank you because I am grateful that you're here. You'll see that gratitude is a huge part of my life. So let's begin with this. Stress has a formula. Stress has a formula. Stress is equal to pressure over resilience. But the common denominator, which is resilience, we've actually forgotten that. And we've started to equate stress and pressure and responsibility as one. And so we're not able to differentiate between the two. So throughout this whole thing, that's why I prefaced it, we have to remember that we have an inner power. It's that very power that's beating our hearts right now, making the sun come up without our assistance. It's managing it all just fine. So humans have a need. This is why we feel so challenged right now. Humans have a need for certainty. And it's not that the outside world was certain at any point. It's that we had become very comfortable in dealing with the uncertainty that life has to offer. We'd started to go to work. We had a habit, but the world was still moving forward. We just got used to our routine and our space in the world. And so what's been taken from us is the way that we deal with the outside world. This whole thing is about going within. And everything that's going on is an opportunity to absolutely go within and understand how you can both manage the uncertainty and the certainty through faith. Challenge is necessary. We cannot grow without it. We cannot. A plane takes off against resistance. And most of us go through life trying to avoid challenge. And then when we're challenged, we're like, oh, I can't adapt. So being able to adapt is so necessary. And hopefully you're going to get the tools from today's session to give you that. Because we've stopped growing emotionally, spiritually, physically, and mentally, we've lost sight of that power that we've got within us, that same power that we're using to create the reality that we're living today. Makes so much sense when you understand that our thoughts are actually creating our life. So how did I get here? Who am I and how did I get here? Why am I talking to you? I'm 39 now. 20 years ago, at the age of 19, though, I was diagnosed with depression. And I had my first suicide attempt later that year. Now, for anyone that doesn't know, I had called off an engagement and it was not the thing to do as a Punjabi girl. It's not something that you do. So I was kind of on my own. I didn't know at the time that I was being courageous. I just thought I was being obstinate and stubborn because that's what everyone was telling me. So I basically carried this identity that I couldn't make my marriage work. That makes me a loser. That's the mentality I had. And I basically there was a switch, something happened and I became this person who I was just sad, and I got increasingly sad as time went on. And now I understand that what we focus on expands. So whether we focus on the sadness or the fear or the anxiety, well, that expands. And so that is actually what happened. I got married at the age of 27 to a very beautiful human being without whom I would not be here. And by the time I was 31, I'd had 5 miscarriages and I volunteered to have a hysterectomy. Now, when I say to you that our words We speak our life into existence. We speak and think our life into existence. I mean that. Jo mange thakure apne te soi soi deve. Oh my word, did that take a whole nother meaning with me. Every time I got pregnant, I would say, I don't think I can have kids. I don't think I want kids. How am I going to bring up kids in the world? In this world, how am I going to do that? And I'm already depressed. I can't handle myself. Every time I got pregnant, I would miscarry. Then my surgeon was saying, look, I can't, you've got some endometriosis, but there's no reason for you to be miscarrying the way you are. But in my head, I had so much pain, and I wanted, after the 5th hysterectomy, because it takes an emotional toll, not knowing what was going on with me, I just thought I was, again, useless. I was just not, the problem was me. And so my surgeon said, we're not performing a hysterectomy on you. And I got into the lift and I cried with my husband. And when we got in the car, I said, next time we come in this car to the hospital, I will have my hysterectomy. The next time I went to the hospital, my surgeon was different. I went in and I said, I'm really sad. I can't handle this anymore. I need the hysterectomy. He said, no worries. No worries. There was no question. No worries. Let's book you in. And he did. He changed hospitals and I got booked in. We speak our life into existence. So by 2015, my life began spiraling out of control. I was not prepared for the hormonal imbalance. I was already disturbed, depressed, and sad, but I wasn't prepared for what happened beyond that. And so in my head, because I was living inside my head, that's what we all do. We live inside the story that we constantly remind ourselves of, because that's the only place that we are all the time. No matter where we go in the world, we're constant. And so I started to spiral out of control. It was when I started to have questionable conversations with people, started to do questionable things. Like I had gotten to the point, and I've shared this very openly, so I'll share it here. I was on prescriptive drugs. I was on codeine, and I had morphine, and I had anti-anxiety pills. I had pain meds, and I still wasn't sleeping. So I started to take my pills with a shot of vodka. I wasn't a drinker, but I used to take a shot of vodka at night to be able to just go to sleep, because I found it so hard to just get over to sleep. I couldn't stop what was going on inside my head. So I went to the doctors, and he said to me that what we need to do is change your medication. And just something within me said no. And the response was so visceral. It was a very big no, just no. And I came home and I spoke to my husband, and I just said, I don't want to change the pills. I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to take another pill and wait for the side effects to just subside so that I can begin to feel somewhat normal for a few months later down the line for me to say the pills aren't working. And I said, I think I want to go away. I had no idea that I was running away from my problems. And I said, I think I want to go away. And he said, okay, well, why don't you head to America? I used to work in a school at the time. And he said, why don't you head to America for a couple of months? You have family out there. My nanke live out there. So I went to America for 2 months. And over that summer, I had some incredible experiences, met some incredible people. And one night after an evening with my friends and my cousin in LA, it was a beautiful part of LA. We were sitting in this gorgeous restaurant. The sky was pink and orange. It was beautiful, and had an amazing time. I went back to the hotel, and my cousin added me to her Facebook group, her Messenger. And they were saying all this lovely stuff about me. And I was thinking, do they not know who I am and how I feel? I was so sad. It's a real understatement to say that. I was just, something in me just felt broken. I was like, depression really isn't going to go on holiday just because I have. And it was in that moment, sitting at the end of that hotel bed, I decided that I wasn't going to live out 2015. but I had a husband I loved so much, and I had to get stuff in order. So I came home. As I said, I live in Ireland. My husband lives in England. Oh, sorry, I live in Ireland, and my family are from England. And so I wrote my husband a letter, and I put it in my top desk drawer. And I flew over to England. And my brother, who had never picked me up from the airport in 8 years, came to pick me up. He was there on time. He's the most scatterbrained person I know, but he was there on time at 7:45 in the morning. I was like, this is incredible. He came to pick me up, and just something said, tell him how you feel. So that's the second time I heard that inner voice so loudly. And I did. I just looked at him and said, I can't do this life thing much longer. And he looked at me and said, what the F are you talking about? Can't do this life thing much longer. When was the last time you said thank you? And I was like, say thank you. It's funny because when I look at my Facebook, I noticed that I'd actually started to say thank you that year for little things, because I was trying so hard not to give in to the suicidal ideation that was going on in my head. So it all now makes sense when I look back. But I just said to him, what have I got to say thank you for? Have you not heard how miserable my life has been? And he said, I don't care. When was the last time you said thank you? You've married an exceptional human being. You live in a lovely home. You live in a beautiful area. You're no longer living in the societal conditions that you wanted to be free from. And he just started to throw stuff at me. And I was like, oh. And just something switched, because there's only two ways to change the space that you're in: through emotional impact or through constant spaced repetition. That's constantly doing the thing until you remember how to do the thing without having to think about doing the thing. There's 4 stages of learning. And so he had this conversation, and I kid you not when I say, from the moment he picked me up from the airport till about 2:45 that night, we spoke about gratitude, about God, about Sikh, about metaphysical science, about the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. Chitragupta, Guru Sahib talks about them, neuroscience, universal law. And that day changed my life. Doesn't mean I didn't have to work after that day. That's the day that work actually began. But that day I went home and I wrote a gratitude journal for the first time ever, and I meditated. And that was on September 12th, 2015. And on October 1st, 2015, I gave up the pills. My doctor told me not to do it all in one go. And I was like, you don't understand. I've got God now. I'm good. I know now why he was saying, don't do it all in one go. But I was like, no, I'm good. I'm good. I had a nervous breakdown, a drug withdrawal, and a spiritual awakening all at the same time. The best thing I ever did, because challenge makes us grow. During that time, let me tell you that there were 2 conversations specifically as I went to actually give up the pills. As I started to give up the pills, the withdrawal began. And I remember standing in my kitchen, because the ego mind is a real thing. It's a gift, but it's a real thing. And I remember standing in my kitchen and saying to my husband, love, I know how tough this is for me, because I had started to realize that my behaviors were impacting another human being. And I started to realize the demon that he had been dealing with for so long. And so my space of gratitude for my husband, just to go back to that story super quick with my brother, something shifted with me in the car. The moment we started to talk about gratitude, I rang my husband and I said, love, I'm going to be okay. And I heard it in his voice. He knew I was back. He knew I was okay. I kid you not, that conversation changed so much for me. But anyway, I was standing in the kitchen and I said to my husband, I was like, love, this is so tough. This is so hard. I know how tough it is, but I've managed 2.5 weeks without the pills. Do you think that you can carry on dealing with the person that you're dealing with right now? He was like, love, we've come so far. We've got this. We've got this because God's got us. I'll never forget that conversation. And so these tuks are tuks that I live by. These tuks changed my life, and they made so much more sense at a very different level. So Sagar meh boond boond meh sagar, govern bujhe bid jane. Like, we are not, this is not a conceptual thing. God is telling us we are the ocean, and the ocean is us. And the moment when I say our perceived pain comes from perceived separation, I mean that at a very deep level. When you begin to practice the recognition that God is real and that you actually have God-given gifts within you, you actually recognize how much control you have over your life. So in science, they call it quantum leaping. So when you focus on something, so remember I said what you focus on expands. Well, where your attention goes, because we all have an energy flowing through us, and we all have the ability to focus our attention. So where your attention goes, energy flows, and what you focus on gets bigger. Well, that means the more you practice things, the more you think about something, and the more you add emotion to it, the more you focus on it, the more it expands. They call that quantum leaping. I don't know how many of you have heard of the law of attraction. So the law of attraction is like attracts like. Magnets will show you that like attracts like. And so we are like that. We are electromagnetic beings. And so we begin to then draw things to ourselves rather rapidly. They, in science, call this quantum leaping. Guru Sahib says, Charan saran gur ek penda jai chal, Satguru kot penda aage hoye lep hai. You take one step towards God, God takes millions of steps towards you. Science calls that quantum leaping. We call it God, right? So science is just the kind of quest into what God has made. That's it. So we've got all the answers. This is just an opportunity to tap into it. Man tu jyot swaroop hai apna mool pachan. Oh my, you know what? In that conversation that I had with my brother, I realized that I'm having the conversation. I'm able to shift how I'm thinking and feeling based upon the conversation I'm having within myself, based on upon what I'm focusing on. After that day with my brother, all I did was wake up and say, I'm so grateful, God. Thank you, God. Just for the small things first. Firstly, the big things, my husband and the home, but then the hot water, the food, just started to say thank you. It became my way of being. The more I said thank you, the more God started to give me to say thank you for. Like attracts like. Makes so much sense. Mana jeeta jagjeet. So then the work began to actually conquer my mind so that I could conquer my world. I'm literally conquering my world every single day because I'm conquering my mind every single day. It's not something that just happens once. The work is in doing it every day. This is what you call kamai. We've gone into the idea that if I've taken Amrit, that's it. If I've done my Japji Sahib today, that's it. That's not it. That's just the admission. The work begins post that. So in my head now, so I was blessed with Amrit at the age of 13, and I didn't keep the red. So I now know that I didn't keep the red because my mind wasn't there. Whereas now my mind is in a different place, the red is easier to keep. Mana jeeta hai jagjeet. So then the jo manga thakare apne te soi deve. Like attracts like. What are we asking for? Where is our focus? Most of us are focusing on the thing that we don't want. Most of us are spending this thought energy. You have thought energy. You don't, it doesn't have to go where it goes. I don't know about you guys, but I grew up in a culture, not in a culture, in a home. My mom's so spiritual, so incredibly spiritual, but then by the same token, also displays the same ignorance that we all display. And so So a conversation that I have with my mom all the time is that we focus on the thing that we don't want so often. I've kind of lost my track of thought, and I'll tell you why, because I had two separate stories just come into my head. But I'm gonna go with what came into my mind. Right? Do you remember I said to you, I got in the car with my husband and I said, I will get that hysterectomy. I asked for it and I got it. Now my situation's so very different. Nothing else has changed. I still can't have kids. I've still had the hysterectomy. I've still had something life-changing happen. But what I'm asking for is very different. What I'm asking for is very, very different. I'm now asking for peace of mind. I'm asking for love. I'm asking for good relationships. I'm asking for that stuff. I'm asking for God to show me that God is guiding me. I'm consciously asking for it. I'm making time to get present. So what I was going to say about my mom is, my mom, when we used to talk about Barney and things like that, my mom used to say, and I used to hear their conversations as adults, right? That, you know, we'll be sitting here, and you just think, Murakman, but that's it. That's all they did. They didn't actually do anything to train the mind to bring it back constantly. Bring it back constantly. It's a constant effort. By the sweat of our brow. It's a constant effort. It's constant. The mind will take you to all the places you've conditioned it to go. You have to condition it to come back. This is it. This space is all about that. So what I learned, we're in control of how we think, how we feel, and how we act. If I say to you, think of something that makes you happy, you'll all be able to think of something. Think of something that stresses you out, you'll all be able to think of something. Think of something that makes you sad, you'll all be able to think of something. Now feel good about something. Feel bad about something. You can do all of them. But we've told ourselves we can't, because the Western world has conditioned us to live from the outside in. We live from the inside out. That's what we have with the gift of being able to do. This is what people call riddhiyan siddhiyan. When you activate the God potential, you don't need to actively search for the riddhiyan siddhiyan. That's what Guru Nanak Pacha told us. They're just there. No need. Guru Sahib has told us they're all there already. But to activate them, you have to activate the source that activates them. But you know what? We're actually using those riddhiyan siddhiyan already. We're just not using them consciously. So become conscious of your power so the universe can then respond to you how you consciously want it to respond. The universe responds to how we're thinking, how we're feeling, and how we're acting. We have a conscious mind, a thinking mind. Guys, feel free to either screenshot this or even draw it like you literally, it's a circle, a heart, and a letter A with an arrow through it. We have a conscious mind. We have a subconscious mind, the feeling mind, Chitra Gupta. And the universe, this is a vibration. So if you look through Gurbani talks about vibration, right? Everything's a vibration. So our thoughts, everything's an energy. Energy vibrates at varying frequencies. So our thoughts are frequencies, our feelings are frequencies. So we get to choose the level, the frequency, the dial. We get to actually choose that. You cannot listen, I don't know what the radio stations are there, but you can't listen to a radio station in Australia and expect to get a radio station in London. You're going to have to switch up the dial or do something. So switch up the dial. You want to be up here, start taking the steps to be up here. You're not going to get up here overnight. And then when you get here, you've got a new goal to set, and then you start doing the work to there. And then again, for example, yesterday, it's us, we're family. Yesterday, I was like, I'd already done like 75% of my slides. I was like, oh God, can I really do this? Am I gonna? So this is, my hands started to sweat. I was like, okay, now what do I do? The old me, the version of me that didn't have confidence, faith, and trust, would have said, would have either turned up here without the notes, would have turned up here without the slides and just winged it. That's what I would have done. But what I did was speak to my tribe and say, guys, I feel ego mind is telling me not to do the thing that I need to do to get to where I want to, because you become aware. Because the ego mind doesn't like change. The ego mind is like the reptilian part of your brain, if you like. It's the oldest part of our brain. It doesn't want to move forward. It doesn't want to change because it's scary. Change is scary. Change takes work. And change is unfamiliar. So remember the certainty and the uncertainty. Well, you're taking away the certainty. It feels challenging. And we can turn on feelings through thought alone. It feels challenging. So then it's like, there and there. And then you retreat and you stop. So then you have to have tools in place. I was like, okay, there's no way I'm not doing the thing that God has served me with and given me to do. I didn't come to Dipin. Dipin came to me. We've connected somehow spiritually, emotionally. There's something there. I've got to do the thing. So I got in touch with my tribe on Facebook. You guys, I've got this, and this to do. I need some help. Can someone pray for me? Can someone pray for me? And these are all Christians, actually. Can someone pray for me? Because Rabb is one. And can someone, Guru Nanak Pacha didn't make it hard. Guru Nanak Pacha began Gurbani with Ik, and then gave you Mool Mantra to tell you what Ik is about. Then Japji Sahib to explain what Mool Mantra is about. Then Guru Sahib to explain what Japji Sahib is about. And Guru Sahib made it so simple. We can go as far on each end as we want. Guru Sahib tackles every subject that you could ever come across. So anyway, I asked them to pray for me. I asked them to hold me accountable. And they did. The prayers that I got, I was driving. I had to actually pull over. I had to pull over and say, wow, there are people like this in the world. There are people that speak these kind of words. And you think, wow, God really is real. Came home, got my stuff done. You guys. So it's not that fear doesn't arise. It's that how do we challenge the fear? How do we challenge the ego mind? The ego mind isn't your enemy. The ego mind is only your enemy when you allow it to control you. When you're not in control of it, of course, anything's the enemy when you're not in control of you. Your senses are here to serve you. But what's happened is we begin to live from the outside in. We go by the instant gratification. We go by what we can see, feel, hear, taste, and touch. We've forgotten our inner power. So when we go inwards, and we start to manage what we're thinking, spend time to manage what we're thinking, to manage how we're feeling, well, of course the universe is going to respond, because if you go back to our previous slides, which is why I began with those dukhs, Guru Sahib says, Man tu jot swarup hai, apna mool pachan. Guru Sahib says, Man jeeta hai jag jeet. Guru Sahib says, Jo mangay thakure apne te soi soi deve. What is the conversation I am having with myself? Because the most deepest, most valuable, most important relationship you will ever have is not with your spouse or your kids. It's with you. So that's all this is. That's all this is. The universe is responding to how I'm thinking and feeling, and I have control over both. Man jeeta jag jeet. So the work is in becoming conscious. We have upwards of 60,000 thoughts a day, and we're only aware of 2 to 4% of those. Guys, 60,000 is an approximation. It's an estimate. There's upwards of 60,000 thoughts. We're aware of between 1,200 and 2,400 of those 60,000 thoughts. If you want to know what you're thinking, most of the time, your life is telling you. My life was telling me that I'm thinking about depression and sad stuff. And I was, You know, when I say speak your life into existence, speak your life into existence, I used to suffer with the worst road rage. I used to get into my car and think, "Minnu aaj odan de takkarne hai. I'm gonna find those people are gonna be on the road today, aren't they?" You used to speak it out. Those were the people I used to see. The effing, and I don't swear anymore. Sometimes it comes out. I'm not gonna lie. It sometimes comes out. But the effing and the blinding and the flipping people off, that was a normal occurrence for me. Because I was looking for reasons to be offended. Jo mange thakure apne te sohi sohi deva. We have to change our habits, actively change our habits, actively change the language. So think of your mind as the universal garden. You are connected to, you're not apart from nature, you're a part of nature. Nothing in nature worries or hurries. And this is why Hari is my dog, by the way. This is why Hari is so special to me, so important, because, don't be surprised if he walks in, because he lives in the present moment. I could see him after 5 minutes and it will be like it's been 5 years. He lives in the now moment. It's like, they just know the now moment. Nature just knows the now moment. They don't worry, they don't hurry. We're not apart from it, we're a part of it. And so start today with that understanding. You are a part of the universal imagination. You are so special. God said there's a space for you, there's a need for you, and sent you here. So you're a part of this universal mind because there is only one. There's not you and God, there's just God. And then the separate thing that you've made yourself. So your thoughts are your seeds. Where we are right now is as a product of our previous way of thinking, feeling, and acting. Where we want to go is where we plant the new seeds. So in nature, for anything to grow, you need to excavate the land first. You plant those seeds in and you watch those seeds grow. As those seeds grow, they require nourishment and support. So we can't do it for anyone. No one can do it for us, but we can't do it alone either. We need to make sure that we're reaching out for support and help wherever we need it. And it's not about planting the seeds and then going and saying, have you started to grow yet? It's about letting nature do its thing, but you doing your thing. And that's what requires faith. That is what requires faith. Knowing that the source behind all resources has an idea and a plan for you. If that wasn't true, you wouldn't be here. We're not here without purpose. We're here with purpose. If it wasn't for what's going on in the world, you and I wouldn't be having this conversation. And we wouldn't be having this conversation if God hadn't intervened in 2015. So God has a plan that's bigger than any of us. We are so self-involved in our own story, we can't see beyond it, because life is an emotional experience, you know. I'll get to that, you'll see that in the later slide. I'm really sorry because I'm sitting on the floor I've got pins and needles now. I'm sitting on the floor because our internet's a bit dodgy, so I'm really sorry for fidgeting. So excavate the old, your feelings, okay, your thoughts are so if we go back to the previous slide. So if we imagine, as we're doing it, the imagination, you're going to realize is so powerful. So if you imagine that you have the ability to think and you have the ability to feel, well, the process is to think of the thing and how you want to think, how you want to feel, how you want to live your life, the vision for your life, because everything in nature is designed to grow and serve. You'll hear me say that over and over. So if we don't set the vision for ourselves, the unconscious vision is doing the work for us. So the idea is to become conscious and think about what you're thinking about and to add the emotion to it, because emotions, we feel our way through life. How do you want to feel? This is creating new neural associations in the brain. It's creating anchoring. There's loads of stuff happening on in the background, but you're switching on different parts of your brain. So yeah, you see the thing, you feel how you want to feel, and you let nature do nature's thing. So Einstein says your imagination is a preview of life's coming attractions. This is why visualization is so important. Do you know that you think in pictures? So see those 60,000 thoughts, they're pictures, they're images, and those images are invoking an emotional response in you, whether you're conscious of it or not. So the unit, that vibration, that feeling that you're setting up consciously or unconsciously is being responded to by the universe, because like attracts like. Well, what is the energy of your thought and your feeling that you're asking the universe to match? Because what is it that I'm putting out for the universe to respond? Think about it. If I asked you to think about your kitchen, if I asked you to think about your car, if I asked you to think about your workspace, if I asked you to think about your husband or your wife or your child or your dog, or the images come into your mind. If I said, think of a pink elephant, none of you have seen a pink elephant, but the image of a pink elephant comes to your mind because we think in pictures. You know, there was a day that I understood something, like I had a different understanding of the word chitra. Chitra, like the conscious mind is imagery. And chitra actually means, right, portraits and so illustrations. Guru Sahib has so many different things just going on in Gurbani. Gurbani is a whole, it's a whole universe in itself. You can get lost in it. Guru Sahib is just, you know, Guru Sahib's the most playful, most joyful, most loving. Everything is right there in Gurbani, absolutely everything. So do you spend time thinking about what you want or what you don't want? Where is your time most spent? And are you consciously spending time to think about what you want? Do you have goals and visions for your life? There's a book, Gurmat Manovigyan. It talks about this. It talks about goal setting and that we're here to grow and serve. You guys, sanu cheta bol gaya, si kiya, si kithon aaya, si ki karna hai. That's all that's happened. This is an opportunity to remember who we are. We're here to remember we're a part of God, and God's a part of us. That's it. It's a gift where we're at. So the brain lives in the now. It doesn't experience the past. Remember I was talking about Hari living in the present. Well, the brain lives in the now. That's what he taught me. It doesn't, you can activate thinking about the past. You can use your memory to go backwards and think about all the things that make you feel terrible. You can do that. But the brain thinks it's happening now. So it's setting up that space for you right now because the universe has to respond to it. So if the brain can't tell the difference between real or imagined and it experiences everything in the now, so then that would make sense to feel good now. Feel good right now. Choose to feel good right now. Do the things to make you feel good right now so that you are in that space, so the universe can keep on responding, so that you build up the resilience, the inner power, the faith to be able to tackle the challenges of life, because life will throw challenges at you. It has to. You have to grow. The universe has to move. You cannot have an up without a down. You cannot have dark without light. It just, they're opposite ends of the scale. That's it. The universe has a rhythm. The universal rhythm. They are real. They're there. They're true. The tide comes in, the tide goes out. But we have the opportunity to live in the now and remember who we are and what we are and what our capabilities are. So the brain can't tell the difference between real or imagined, and it's experiencing the thing that you keep reminding it of in the now. It's saying you're in danger right now. You're in fear right now. And then the universe, Guru Sahib just sends that back. Just sends that back. So stop watching the news. Just stop. The media is designed to invoke fear. The media is owned by about 7 different corporations across the world. They have something to project to you. This is not to say that there isn't something happening in the world. This is to say that when Guru Arjan Dev Ji Patsha was made Shaheed, what the actual issue was, the Guru Sahib brought together 75% of the population. And then the remaining 15% were corrupt politicians, corrupt world leaders, and corrupt religious leaders. And those 3 run our media across the world at a global state. That's why there's censorship and other things. But what the news actually does, it's based on fear. And remember, we can create thoughts and feelings in ourselves based on thought alone. So the vibration that we set up in ourselves is one of fear, which comes from a place of ignorance, because fear is the lack of understanding and the lack of knowledge of who and what you are. Nirpao nirvair. We are fearless when we understand who we are. Then it doesn't matter what's going on out there. It's what's going on in here. Man jeeta jagjeet. It's what's going on in here, your hirda. What is going on in there? What do you know in here? It's not about there. Your circumstances shouldn't control you. It's not about what your senses are perceiving. Your senses are perceiving what you are asking them to perceive. Because at any given moment, we are taking in 2 billion bits of data. And we are only aware, I think, of 2 or 4% or 5%. So the brain has to actively filter out the things that are unimportant. And the things that are unimportant are the things that we're focusing on the least. And the things that are important are the things that we're focusing on the most. So you tell me when the last time you turned on the news and the news told you something really good about you, about who you are, about something good in the world. They might do a segment at the end, for a whole 25 minutes, then in the last 5 minutes they tell you something good that happened, so that you tune in again tomorrow. You guys, it's called programming for a reason. Turn off your TV, turn off your dramas, turn it off, turn it off, turn it off. It's okay to go watch something and chill for a while if you're aware that your conscious mind isn't distracted, so that it's not just going into your subconscious mind, because your subconscious mind is doing the work for you. It is responsible for 98% of what you're doing. Because this is the knowing part, this is the doing part. Be mindful of what you're letting in through your senses. Because what we consume physically, emotionally, mentally, it becomes a part of us. You eat an apple, that apple becomes a part of you. That's why Guru Sahib says to read Bani over whatever it is that you're eating. How does Amrit become Amrit? You guys, the answers are all there. We don't have to go far. Yeah, I have a blank screen there, sorry. So start conditioning the body and the brain to expect and receive the good. The more we do something, we have this idea, that I am who I am and I can't change. That's not true. You are who you are, but you're choosing to not change. When you change the language, it's very different. You empower yourself. So, Sahib mera neet nawaz sada sada datar. Oh my God, that made so much sense to me. There was this moment where So I learned that our body sheds around 7% of its cells every single day and regenerates 7% every single day. But those new cells that have a neutral programming, say, those new cells become conditioned. We condition those cells to be the same program that we were running before. So we're not actually conditioning ourselves to evolve, we're conditioning ourselves to stay the same all the time. So those cells that we shed and receive today, those cells are going to remain the same with the same program unless we do something to change. You do not have to be the same person you were today, though that you are today, tomorrow, or even at the end of this call, or even that you were at the beginning of this call. You do not. I find it so hard to tap into the version of myself that existed in 2015 because I don't exist there anymore. I know her. I know of why she was the way she was. That much I know. I could tell you about her, but I cannot visit her. I can't be in that emotional space anymore because that version of me and this version of me are very different. They're very different because I am conditioning myself to be different. But that version of me had some fears that still turn up now, which are the fears that I'm challenging every day. So the game isn't done, the game isn't over, there's no end point, there's just a continuation. The end point is when you give up or you die. Most of us are so scared about dying, we're hauly just, rather than today I have life. I have the ability to live an incredible life and experience God today. So start to expect better for yourself. Start to expect that goodness happens around you, that you do speak your life into existence, that you are as magnificent as Gurpreet Kaur said, that you do only come from the one. Start to do those things and start to expect that the goodness is going to arrive. Because the language of the universe, the language of God is pure unconditional love. You tell me anywhere, right? You tell me anywhere in Gurbani that where Guru Sahib hasn't really given you a good old, the Guru Sahib hasn't also given you the balm to apply on it afterwards. Do the work. I know I keep on saying it. Just, so your mind checklist. My imagination now decides. I want you to remember that. My imagination now decides. M-I-N-D. My imagination now decides. Spend time in your imagination every day. Get to that space. So this is our checklist. We have the Semp Diet. Can you guys see that okay, or is my camera in the way? You can see it okay? Okay, so start the Semp Diet. Every single day, something for your spiritual health. Gurbani, meditation, gratitude. That will also work for your emotional health. Every day, spend some time asking yourself, where are my emotions right now? What am I feeling? Is this feeling that I'm having? And things are going to start to come up, all the things that people did to you, all the things that you might have done to people. So many things are going to come up and you're going to have to spend and set yourself and say, I responded and reacted with the best I knew how at the time. And then choose to respond differently. Right now, when you respond to something in your life, you take control. When you are in reaction mode, then we deal with the turbulence in life. So, yeah, and then do something physical for yourself. Your physical. Oh, actually, I wrote. Sorry, excuse me. I just want to make sure that I get that I wrote all that down yesterday. Yeah, I did. I've already said it. So something physical. Make sure you do some form of physical activity every single day. I know there's some restrictions going on, but guys, you can exercise in your home. There's different things that you can do. Do some kasrat every single day. It's necessary. It's necessary. Exercise is necessary. It gets endorphins going. It gets serotonin going. So many different things begin to happen. You have the ability to create the chemicals yourself. Create a morning and evening routine. Be screen free at night, an hour before bed, screen free in the morning for the first hour, and make those 2 hours your sacred time of connecting, whatever you have to do. You know, it's almost like, you know, when a bacha is going to go to sleep, we start the decompression routine. For some reason, we forget that we have to do the same for ourselves. We must do that. A gratitude journal at night, meditation at night. And you go to sleep speaking your life into existence. Guru Sahib, thank you for the beautiful sleep I'm going to have tonight. Thank you for awakening me with peace. Thank you for giving me the strength to do that. Do it for 30 days, 60 days. It takes on average 66 days to create a new habit, and to do it unconsciously. So yeah, and start reading books, reading podcasts, listening to katha. There's English kathas, there's Punjabi kathas, there's so many. Sant Singh Maskeen has a katha. It's Salok Mohalla Nama. It escapes me, but everyone knows Salok Mohalla Nama, right? She says as she forgets what it is. But yeah, so Salok Mohalla Nama, Sant Singh Maskeen, beautiful katha. Chinta taki kijiye jo anhoni hoye. How can you fear the impossible when the impossible hasn't even happened? And hey, even with the impossible, no matter what the universe or what the world can throw at you, you've got the power of the universe within you. You've got God within you. It does not matter. Become resilient in that knowing. Use God as your dividing power through everything. I'm telling you, you live a life of pure serenity, and Untitled takes on a whole new meaning. So podcasts, books, katha. Gurvinder Singh Ratak has some really good kathas on the subconscious mind and our thoughts. Gurvinder Singh Ratak, Ratttak, YouTube. YouTube's your best friend right now. Visualize yourself in a protective embrace, a bubble. You've heard the term arm's length, keep people at arm's length, or keep things at arm's length. You literally have an energetic sphere around you, around an arm's length. So walk around like you've got this Guru Sahib shield around you, and that anything that doesn't belong in the new version of who you want to be, who the seeds you planted, that just deflects off of you. You've got Guru Sahib. You've got Guru Sahib. Observe your language. Shabda, so important. Our shabda is so important. They say we speak our life into existence. So is your language disempowering? Is there a lot of can'ts? Is there a lot of I can't do it? It doesn't happen for me. It's not for me. All of those things. Is that happening? If that is, change it. You have the ability to change it. I went from saying I'm so sad, my life's so miserable, I'm everything you've heard, to change it to I'm so happy, Guru Sahib, I'm so grateful. See, what happens is as you begin to change you have a filter, a switch in your brain called the RAS. That's the bit of you that needs to filter in those billions of bits of data that are coming in. So depending on the language that you're speaking, what you're saying, the universe is responding to that all the time. But the RAS is looking for the thing that you're thinking about the most and the thing that you're saying the most. So imagine you could be in a room, a crowded room, and you're having a conversation, you're deep in conversation. At the other end of the room, somebody says your name. No one else has heard it, but you've heard it. Why? Because your RAS is designed to pick up. Your name's the most important thing to you. So it's designed to pick up the thing that's important to you. Is your language disempowering or empowering? Your RAS is filtering it through for you. Pray, 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 pray. This isn't just doing your nithanem. It's not an arbitrary thing. It's not just today I've ticked off, I did my Nithanim. I used to do that. I did it for years. It's not just about, it's ote amal karna. But also understanding our conversation is prayer. Our conversation is prayer. That's why yesterday when I asked for prayers and some of the messages I got, man, if I played them to you, it'd make you cry. But the words are so powerful. Our words carry energy. They're vibrations. Everything's a vibration. I felt the vibration. I felt the words. Praying is that dialogue that we're having. Switch your perspective. Go from... Our perspective is actually a mental capability that we have as well. So is the imagination. But our perspective, go from viewing outside in to inside out. Go from the world and the circumstances are controlling me to I control my world and my circumstances. I create them. Me and God, we're co-creators. Me and God, we're one. I am one with God. God is one with me. Guide me, God. Guide me. And remind me that you're guiding me. Are there things in your life that make you feel a victim? Shift that point of view to it didn't happen to you, it happened for you. When you shift to that, like when I look at my hysterectomy, I've had life-changing, I literally had organs removed, literally. And I could sit here, it's changed my body more than I can tell you, so much. And I could sit here and go, Guru Sahib, like you could have got me to this point. I've done that as well. I've had those conversations with God. You could have got me here without having to take all of that, but then I won't be who I am. Without it, I wouldn't be able to tell you what the actual cost of not doing this is. But I sit here and I've also shifted that perspective to, if I had had kids, my friends, you and I wouldn't be talking. If I had had kids, it would have been me and my kids. But I have a different vision. I have goals bigger than me. I want to create a legacy. This I want. I know that me and God are one. I know that the vision wouldn't have come to me unless I was here to do it. I choose to believe that God is going to use me to be a vessel. And when you see that you're a vessel, you see that you really aren't. God is all there is. Yeah, you get to shift the perspective. Let me move this out of the way. We get to choose and walk in faith and believe that there's a master planner with a master plan. We don't know the whole story. We can only see the world from where we are. Life is an emotional experience. It's a subjective experience, so we experience it from the inside. And we don't know the whole story, but we have to get to a point where we say, I'm here, but there's a master planner with the bird's eye view, a God's eye view of everything. And so I fit into that somewhere. God knows, but I get to create the story I'm telling myself, because we're meaning-making machines. Practice emotional detachment. People think that emotional detachment is moni karna, right? That's not. Emotional detachment is anything out there, anything you're taking in through your senses, making you feel a certain way. Whatever it is the news making you feel fear? That's emotional attachment. Are you saying if I get my new iPhone, I'm going to be happier? That's emotional attachment. Are you saying when I get the next thing, then I'll be happy? That's emotional attachment. Things don't bring happiness. Happiness brings everything else. We draw to us what we are, not what we want. And so this idea that sons will make us happy, or when my daughter gets married, or when this happens, then no, you're putting it off. That's not feeling good now. That's telling the brain, ਜਦੋਂ ਉਹ ਚੀਜ਼ ਹੋਈ, then we'll accept that God is real and I can be happy. No, do it now, right now. That's the only moment we've got. That's the only moment. It doesn't matter where you are in life. Now is the only moment you have. What is the future? It's the now. Because the future never arrives, just the now arrives. So who we are right now is going to determine who arrives in the future. But the past is just a series of lapsed now moments. The past was the beginning of our phone call. I don't know when that was, but the past was then. The past is constantly happening. So we've got this moment right now to practice how we're feeling and feeling good now based on what we know, not the superficial stuff, but what we know. Make time to visualize, have a vision, a goal. We're naturally designed to grow. Your imagination is like God's canvas. I truly believe that. A painting happens twice. A painting first happens in the mind of the artist and then out there, they paint it on the canvas. Our imagination is a very powerful gift. We're living in the imagination of God. Think about that. And then God gave you an imagination. God had a plan. And if ever you're in doubt, there's always a reason to say thank you and never a reason to wait. If ever you're in that space where something's taken over you and you feel overwhelmed, go to gratitude. Go outside, go walk in nature, go hug a tree, go walk Nange Peri on the grass, go do that. Go connect to the source of all things. Feel the energy of nature and say thank you. Thank you for the breath that I don't even have to ask for and I get. And don't expect it to happen overnight, but do expect it to happen. It's not going to happen overnight. When you began crawling and walking, we're designed to grow because we went from crawling to walking to running. And every time we stumbled, we got back up. Imagine if we had just stopped the first time we fell over. Every time we fell and we got back up, we were building up core strength. That's what we're doing here. We're building up faith strength. We're building up that muscle. It takes time, it takes repetition, it takes practice, it takes a determination. Keep going, keep doing the thing. Ego doesn't want to change. Going and growing builds that faith muscle. And I'm going to leave you with this, that if I can do it, anyone can do it. Anyone can do it. And when you've got nobody else that you can rely on the one that's making your heart beat, the one that's responsible for everything that you see out there, not for the version of the world the media is telling you about, but the version of the world that you can actively see. The one. God is always present and always listening. Are you listening to what God's trying to tell you? And that's it, my friends.